So thank you, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining us for How to Find a Job on Campus. We are bringing this to you during these times to make sure you all receive the information you need. This is something that we provide every beginning of semester from the Career Center, but we have wonderful collaborators here with us today, and they will be also sharing their expertise and knowledge in their areas. So thank you, Deanna Medina from Financial Aid, who's joining us, as well as Joanne Callis from the USU. So thank you. All right, so with that, we're gonna go ahead and get started with some information, because I know all of you who are joining today are looking to learn more and find out about how to find a job on campus. Okay, so with that, I wanna let you know that our overview for today is really, we're going to talk about the benefits of working on campus. Really, what can you get? Why would you want to work on campus? And where to apply, especially during these times that it's a little bit more challenging being virtual, and how to apply, some tips and getting you ready to be competitive. And we have an on-campus employer, like I mentioned. Both Financial Aid is an on-campus employer, as well as the USU. So they're going to talk a little bit about their world of hiring on campus today. Okay. So to get right into it, and I do want to let everybody attending today know that if you have questions, there is a question and answer button. We do have our wonderful student assistant, Karen Acevedo, is here with us, who will be helping with those Q&As throughout the session, and most questions will be held till the end, but if we can, we will try to incorporate them throughout our presentation, but at the end there will be a Q&A session. Okay, so with that, benefits for working on campus. So here's just a few things that we want to highlight that is really important that a lot of times we don't think about. So yes, it is a flexible schedule. We understand that you're all students first and student assistants second, right? So we want to encourage your academic experience. So therefore, it's flexible to a point, right? That we know that school comes first, right? So we are going to be flexible in the sense of knowing that midterms are coming up or finals, that classes are happening. So maybe you go to class and then you could come to work. So we can work with you on your schedules. Usually it's supportive, and it's a supportive environment. So we want you to do well in school. It's not come to work and oh well, you have a paper due tomorrow. So it's really about being a supportive environment that you're going to be getting learning experience of work at the same time as you are learning your academics. You're gaining transferable skills and experience. So it's a real job when you're working on campus. You're getting the opportunity to learn skills to get you ready and prepared for when you go into the world of work after college. We also say it's a great opportunity to get networking. Networking could be intimidating for some more than for others. And it might be intimidating when you think of networking as a big scope. Oh, well, who do I connect with? How do I connect with people? Well, the nice thing is when you're working on campus, it's kind of already a built-in network. You just need to kind of make those connections with those who you're working with. It might be faculty, it might be staff, and these are people who can write letters of recommendations for grad school and whatnot as you move forward. It's an easy commute. And well, now that we're virtually, that might sound, oh, well, I'm home, and maybe you get to work from home in your assigned positions. But when we're back on campus, it's kind of nice to not have to move your car. You get to go to classes and go to your site on campus and work and then go home, So that definitely is a bonus of working on campus. So sense of belonging to your campus, right? So you're here as a student, but if you're also here in additional as an employee, kind of gets an opportunity to learn about your campus and become part of your campus, our campus. So, okay, so the next question is where do you start with looking for a job on campus? And so we say begin with your connections, people you know who might know of positions on campus, academic advisors, instructors, a lot of times they're hiring in their departments. So you might want to check in with them. Do your own research. We highly recommend you to contact your department, like I mentioned, but also contact other campus employers. You'll see that every department on campus may have a position here and there. So any on-campus department could be hiring at some point. We want to be, I think all my counterparts here and I really want to be honest with you that we are in a different time right now. Not only are we virtual, but we are also in a time of having to, kind of think a little bit differently than when we were in person, okay? So we are looking at also having you contact these campuses, departments. So like we have listed here, Oviatt Library, USU, Associated Students, all these are here and you can go ahead and check in with them, okay? You want to reach out to them. So in person, when we were in person, you would just go check out the office. Now you're going to have to call them. You're going to have to email them. So it looks a little different nowadays being virtual. Okay, look at their website. So, and we want to definitely highlight the CSUN Handshake database, which is our online job board. A lot of campus departments will be posting on there. What you will see is not every single one does. Okay, sorry for that. I don't know what that is. All right, so we'll go ahead and go to the next one. It actually talks about Handshake. We've got a kind of showing you the interface of that, and it shows how we have the different postings both for on campus and off campus and work study. And I know in just a few minutes we'll have our work study representative talk to us here about what that means, because some of you may know what it is, some of you may not, but those positions would be in Handshake. Again, if it's not in Handshake, there's still positions out there that you can look at through your going on your research through the departments, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and introduce Deanna now, and Deanna, you let me know when we need to click forward, okay?
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. My name is Deanna Medina, and I'm the Federal Work Study Coordinator on campus. So some of you may wonder, well, what is Federal Work Study? So Federal Work Study is part of your financial aid package. So all students who submit a FAFSA, when you submit your FAFSA, and this is a little bit of Financial Aid 101 that I'm going to introduce Work Study with, when you submit your FAFSA, this one application is a submission to participate in different financial aid programs. We have the grant program. So many of you are familiar with your Pell Grant, your Cal Grants, maybe an EOP grant, a state university grant. So this is a type of financial aid. Then we have another type of financial aid called student loans. And so we have two student loan programs, the subsidized, the unsubsidized, and actually we also have a Parent Plus loan program, which is for your parents to borrow money once you have reached your limit. A third type of financial aid program is the Federal Work Study program. So the way that the Federal Work Study program works is that the Department of Education, which is the government agency that oversees federal student aid, they provide certain colleges an amount of money that then CSUN receives this money. And so what my job is to utilize this money that the Department of Education provides us, and I grant students the Federal Work Study Award. So in essence, the Department of Education is paying a portion to give students job opportunities on campus. So it is considered a federally subsidized employment program. And so the way that it works here on campus is that employers need to apply to become a Federal Work Study employer. And then these employers will put out positions out there to hire students. So Joanne, who represents the University Student Union, is actually a Federal Work Study employer. So the USU will hire both work study students and non-work study students. And so the benefit to the employer by hiring a student who is eligible to receive a Federal Work Study Award will receive the award as part of their financial aid package, but the money is funneled through your employer. So we give your employer the money, and then the employer is able to pay your payroll for that month. So it's a subsidy program. So you as a student, how do you apply? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Gave you a little background of employers. So you as a student, all you have to do is submit a FAFSA. You have to submit it by March 2nd every year. There's a question on your FAFSA that says, are you interested in work study? You need to mark off yes, that you're interested. And then if you're a first-time participant in the work study program, you have to complete an online orientation, which is called the First Time Federal Work Study Orientation Workshop. If we can move on to the next slide. And so then we're going to talk about, well, how much is this work study award that we're talking about? It's a $4,000 award, and it's split up between your fall semester and your spring semester. So this award will probably not cover your entire salary. Again, it's a subsidized program, so it gives the employer a break on your overhead, meaning you're paying your salary. And so they get a you as a student receive a $4,000 award amount. In some cases, it may be less because it depends on what other financial aid you're receiving. As I mentioned, there's different types of financial aid that you received earlier. And so what kind of jobs and how much will I get paid and where do I look for are typically common questions about the work study program. Well, because the work study program is all over campus. So we have over 100 employers that apply to become a federal work study employer. The Career Center is a federal work study employer. The USU, as I mentioned, is a federal work study employer. The Oviatt Library is a federal work study employer. Campus Police is also a federal work study employer. And we have a variety of departments. And they are instructed to advertise all of their work study jobs on Handshake. So as Lucy mentioned earlier, not all employers will advertise on Handshake. Well, the Federal Work Study Program requires employers to advertise their federal work study positions on Handshake. So whenever there's an available work study position, you will find it on Handshake. Well, how do you find it on Handshake? There's actually a filtering option when you create a Handshake account. When you go to filter for what type of jobs you want to look for, if you're a work study eligible student, you will have the work study filtering option. So you would check that you're looking for work study jobs, and then it will give you a list of the current work study positions that are open. And again, only students who are eligible for work study. So the Financial Aid Office does actually a pre-screening of all FAFSA applicants over the summer, and we already will screen individual students for the work study eligibility. And our office works in collaboration with the Career Center. And what they do is they actually import a list of all students that are eligible for work study onto Handshake so that you can have that Handshake filtering option. If we can move on to the next, Lucy. And so so you have the information, whoa, little beehive filtering option here. So what are the benefits to a work study job, you would say? Well, one, as Lucy, all the explanations that Lucy said about, the access of campus, all those benefits are good. But to you as a FAFSA filer for financial aid, how does this benefit you? Well, any earnings, because federal work study is a type of financial aid. So any money that you earn from a federal work study counts as income when you fill out your FAFSA, and it's taxable because it's money that's coming from work. However, on the FAFSA application, in that same section, when it asks you for student income information, you'll report all of your earnings from all jobs, whether it's work study or non-work study, as income earned from work. But then there is a section that says, did any of your income come from a need-based employment? Federal work study is considered a need-based employment. You will enter, if you earn that $4,000 in the work study for that calendar year, you'll enter that $4,000 in that section, and that actually gets excluded from the calculations to determine what you will receive in financial aid in the future, in the following FAFSA year. So it's a great benefit because you still get to earn money from work, you're still getting all of the experience, but it doesn't count against you when it comes to filing your FAFSA. And then the second benefit is that employers want to hire work study students because it's a benefit to them. And especially in these times right now, not only is there going to be less jobs available, also budgets are being cut. And so departments have employers everywhere, in society right now, don't have the funds to maybe hire as many students. So the fact that you have a work study eligibility is going to give you an edge to those employers that are looking to fill positions. So again, you're going to hear about other job opportunities. So even if you don't qualify for work study, it still means you can still find job on campus. Work study is just an additional item that you're kind of putting on as part of your resume to intrigue employers as to why they should hire you, is because you have work study. But if you want to find out more about the work study program, if you didn't receive an invitation, because we do send, when we do our screening for students in the summer, we notify you if you are eligible, because we send you an email invitation. And these email invitations were sent in early August. It was August 4th or August 10th this year that we sent out the invitation. So you could always go back to your CSUN Gmail account and look through your emails, and the email is going to be coming from financial aid. It tells you that that we're inviting you, and the link to the online workshop is provided in that email invitation. But if you didn't get it, can't find it, you could always contact us. Our email address is at work.study@csun.edu. And you could also visit our website to learn more about the program. But that's essentially what the work study program is. So thank you guys for having me, and good luck to all of you searching for jobs.
Thank you, Deanna. That's so helpful. I think it's so important to really understand how work study works and the benefits of having it. So I really appreciate you coming on and helping us understand that a little bit more. So thank you. And you're going to stay on for Q&A, right? At the end, we'll have Q&A. So thank you. All right. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about applying for an on-campus job. So first impressions matter. When we're in person, we always say, think about it as, how you're presenting yourself when you come into an office to ask for a job. But today, more and more, email etiquette is even more important than you would think, because that is how they're meeting you. They're meeting you through an email or a phone call. So it's super important to think of how you're doing an impression. So if you're like, hey, did you have a job? Like, I'm looking to make money. Like, again, how you're presenting yourself versus introducing yourself maybe a little bit more as, I'm a CSUN student, I'm looking for an opportunity to work and learn at the same time. So kind of think of what it sounds like to the reader when you're emailing. Also knowing that whatever you're completing online, if it's an application, and I know we have our application workshop starting in a little bit at 11 right after here at the same place that you're in, they're going to go in more into details about completing applications, but make sure that whatever they're asking for, if they're asking for documents, everything is done thoroughly, and you're making sure proofreading and all that is super important, okay? We're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about dress code. We have a lot of tips here for dress code, so I know you all can see it, but what I want to share is that dress code doesn't go out the window because now we're virtual. Actually, I remember a tip that I've heard is even dressing for the part kind of makes you feel a little bit more prepared. So even if you're on the phone, if you're in your PJs, you might feel a little bit more relaxed and be like, yeah, so sure, versus if you're already a little bit more kind of dressed for the part, you're kind of more focused as well. So keeping that in mind is important. And they see you virtually maybe, so you want to look like you put some effort into it and that you prepared yourself for this, okay? So don't think that dress code doesn't matter just because we're in a virtual world, okay? Same thing, no gum and candy, does that matter? Yes, if I'm on a virtual call with you, Joanne, right? And I'm chewing gum as we're trying to talk, that'll be probably really distracting. And that's probably what's gonna be left in the mind of the person who's interviewing you. So keeping those things in mind, okay? So one thing we like to talk about is your 1-minute commercial. This is kind of a tip that at the Career Center we like to give people a way of preparing of how you would introduce yourself. Sometimes that could be the toughest question. If I say, tell me about yourself, sometimes people are like, where do I start, right? So this is something that we like to tell people. You really want to take some time ahead of actually introducing yourself to have that kind of prepared in the back of your mind. What are the things I'm going to highlight? So a lot of times it's known as the 1-minute commercial or the 1-minute pitch. If you only have 1 minute to talk about yourself in a way that you want them to hire you, right? So what would you highlight? What would you say? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the next one. And this is kind of what we would say we want you to highlight. So it says here to construct your 60-second commercial, the 1-minute commercial. You want to highlight who you are. You want to highlight your related experiences, maybe your strengths and skills and interest that you may have, especially related to the position, and your personal preferences, you know, kind of how would relate to the position. So thinking about that. So if you wanted to be a teacher assistant, you know, you would talk about these things that you have that would relate again to it, but bringing in those experiences, your strengths to do this position. And if you kind of have these bullet points in the back of your mind, then when they ask you, tell me about yourself, it's kind of easy to go there and just have it. So something we actually recommend is that you practice this on your own, that you want to, you know, maybe read it out loud and revise it. You want it to sound natural. So it's not that you're actually just like, okay, let me count the things I need to tell you and then I'm done. It wants to come off like a pitch, like a commercial. Like if you're watching a commercial and then you say, oh, I want to get that. It's usually because the commercial has told you why you want to get it, right? So it's kind of the same thing. So here's kind of a example on the slide where it shows you, you know, my name is Talented Students. I'm a sophomore here at CSUN, working towards a degree of psychology. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole thing because I know you all can see it. But if you look at here, you'll notice that it's connecting those pieces. So as an on-campus employer myself, who is looking maybe for a student to work with me in the Career Center, I hear this from a student and I'm already connecting, oh, okay, they're a student, they're working towards psychology. Okay, so they've had some experience, you know, working with individuals with a variety of backgrounds. We're at CSUN, we're a diverse campus. I'm gonna wanna have to have the student help me in helping students at the Career Center because it's showing that they've worked with people, that they've had some experiences that can come and help me. And it talks about, you know, what they're interested in. They're wanting to work in an environment with faculty and staff, and we do that at the Career Center. So I'm gonna wanna interview them or talk to them more, okay? So just keep that in mind. This is a big a tip that we really want people to walk away with knowing. So I have the slide. If we were in person, we'd ask you to turn to the person next to you. I know we're virtually, so I'm gonna say homework. I know we all have enough homework, right? But something I'd love for you to think of when you leave, you know, today and you know, going forward is practicing this. People recommend to do it in front of a mirror, to practice in front of maybe your screen, record yourself and see what it looks like when you talk about it, you know, see how you sound, hear it. And so that's something we recommend with it, okay? So something that we always talk about is resume. Now, this is not a full resume workshop, so I have to remind myself because I could take a long time on this. So I'm going to go ahead and just give you some highlights, you know, some important things. Oftentimes, I know we're going to talk about the application process, but oftentimes today, a resume is your ticket to an interview. So if you haven't created one, no problem. Now's the time to start. So you're going to want to make sure that's more homework, I know. But the Career Center can help you. We help you there on our online. We have resources to help you with your resume. If you've never done a resume before, ask for help. And we can help you critique the resumes. So anything you know, to give you some feedback to make them stronger. It's very competitive to get a job on campus. So you're going to want to make sure that your resume stands out, okay? Your resume is a written example of your communication skills. So make sure you proofread and all that good stuff as well, okay? It's your way of convincing employers that you deserve an interview, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and show you also cover letter is also an important piece. Sometimes they ask you to provide a cover letter. I personally like to recommend people, even if they don't ask, to provide a cover letter. It's an opportunity to kind of give that a little bit extra detail about how you qualified for the position and to tell them a little bit more about yourself. So it's an opportunity to showcase your strengths and your personality and to ask for an interview. Your resume is very factual. It's going to have dates and tasks that you've completed at those locations that you've worked at. But your resume is going to kind of get an opportunity to talk about, my goal is to get into master's program, or my goal is to graduate with this degree. So it's going to give you that information. So the cover letter is important to also consider having with your resume as you're applying on campus or any job. What to bring into an interview. I did leave this. I know that we're now most likely interviewing virtual, but I kind of left this as something to have when we go back in person. All this will apply, but even keeping yourself in mind to be ready when you're interviewing virtually. Again, it's different. So I think nowadays we're getting a lot more comfortable with Zoom information. And so we're gonna go ahead and keep that in mind, that you could practice before your interview with yourself, with some friends. We've got, even the tips here about bringing plain paper, professional notebooks. You could still prepare your space with that, okay? Like, be prepared, even if you're in a virtual world, okay? List of questions, super important. You always wanna have a question. I like to say, don't ask the obvious. If it's on their website, don't ask that question. So you want to go through their website and ask the deeper questions to understand their pieces, okay? All right, so let me go ahead. And lastly, yes, you want to follow up with thank yous. You want to build a relationship with these employers. Okay, sorry, I have a little one. And so thank you letters. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Joanne. Thank you so much, Joanne, for coming and talking about the USU experience.
Okay, thanks, Lucy. So my name is Joanne Coles. I'm the Human Resources Specialist at the University Student Union, and I'm responsible for the student employment. If you take a look at this picture, this is what we looked like 6 months ago. We had about 325 student assistants. It looks a little bit different today. We have about 90 active student assistants. The remaining assistants that we have are all furloughed, otherwise known as unpaid leave of absence. But of the 90 people, they are mostly telecommuting, which they are working from home. We did start bringing some students on campus in the last couple of weeks. This is mainly due to the current environment. The SRC is closed, the Oasis is closed, and 2/3 of our student assistants work in those 2 locations. And right now, we don't have work for them to do. Can you go to the next slide? So just a little bit of information about the USU. We are a nonprofit corporation. We are separate from the university, meaning we are not state employees. We are governed by a board of directors that consists of students, faculty, and staff. And because we're not state employees, we follow the City of Los Angeles minimum wage, which right now is $15 an hour. So the next slide. So here's on the left a list of the departments that we have at the USU. Some of the ones that we have students telecommuting right now would be the Computer Lab, Pride Center, Veterans Resource Center, along with some of the other ones. We do have some virtual programming going on in those centers, and the students are telecommuting to help run those virtual programs. We did recently add the Dream Center to our organization. They came on board with us in July of this year. So next slide. Okay, on the left here are the departments that we have in the SRC. As I mentioned, the SRC is closed. We do have some virtual programming going on for fitness classes, which if you haven't done, you should look into them. But those are not run by students, so we currently don't have very many students working out of the SRC. We do have some personal trainers if there are clients that are willing to do virtual personal training. We do have some student personal trainers working and doing that. Okay, so next. So getting a job at the USU is very competitive. It always has been, and even though we're in a little different environment, or a much different environment now, it still is competitive. Last year, I pulled some information. So last year from January through August, we posted 77 job requisitions, which is actually more than 77 job openings because some of them we hire more than one person. And we had about 3,500 candidates for that. This year, same time period, January to August, we did less than half. So we did 30 requisitions and had about 1,100 candidates apply for those jobs. So it's still competitive, just in a smaller amount. Next slide. So you might want to jot this website down. We do post our jobs at this website. Most of our jobs are not posted on Handshake, but all of them are posted on this website. You can also get to our job postings through the CSUN website. If you go to the tab that says Students and then University Student Union, you can get to our job postings there. Next. So when you go to our website, you're going to see how many jobs we have posted. Unfortunately, this is the accurate number right now. We don't have any jobs posted right now. Also, because we have student assistants that are furloughed, when we do have positions available, we are giving them the first opportunity for those positions. However, they still need to apply and qualify for them. So in the last few weeks, we have hired some non-USU students because we didn't have any furloughed students that were either interested or qualified. What I'm going to do is, because we don't have any positions right now posted, I'm going to tell you how you can set an alert up on our website. And this is similar to job boards like Glassdoor and Indeed. You can set up an alert and it will notify you when positions are posted. So next slide. So when you were at that previous screen, you could have just hit the search button, and if there were any jobs posted, it would bring up the jobs. But you can't set an alert by doing that. So if you click on the location and choose either University Student Union or Student Recreation Center or both of them, then when you click save and go on to the next search thing, it will give you the opportunity to set the alert. So go ahead and next slide. So this is a slide from when we did have jobs posted. So at this point, if you were interested in one of the jobs that we had posted, you would just click on the view button. It would bring up the job description. You'd read through it. You'd try to determine whether you think you're interested in it and qualified in it, or qualified for it. Before we leave this screen, this is where you would set up the alert. If you see the little box that says set an alert, you click on the little, I guess that's a bell icon for save. Put in your email address and follow the directions. When we do have jobs posted, you'll get an email with a link to our website. Our jobs are posted for a minimum of 1 week. Many departments will do more than a week, but you don't want to miss out on the job that you might really be interested in and qualified for because you failed to remember to go and look at our website. So if you set this alert, when it gets posted, you'll get the reminder that, hey, go to the website, look at the job, see if it's something that you're interested in. Also, when you're looking at these jobs on the website, on the job description, they all have a deadline. So you need to pay attention to that. The jobs close at midnight on the date that is listed on the job description. So if you are frantically filling out the application and trying to upload your resume and it strikes midnight and you haven't hit the submit button, you're not applying for that job. So you need to give yourself plenty of time to get your resume in order, to fill out the application. Some jobs require some additional questions in addition to the basic application. So make sure you give yourself plenty of time for that. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the job description is very important, not just the USU, but for any job that you're applying to. Make sure you read the job description carefully. Some of the things that you want to look for, as it states here, required qualifications and preferred level of experience. You only really want to apply for jobs that you think you meet the qualifications and experience for. A good example of that here with us is personal trainers and lifeguards have to have specific certifications. If you don't have those certifications, you will not even be considered for the position. So look at the job description. Is it something you're interested in? Is it something that you think you're qualified for? Some of these positions do require a background check, and the job description will state that if it does. The background checks are just a matter of answering a few questions, and a third-party background company does those for us. Next slide. So another thing to look for on our job postings is the classification. This is also a good indicator as to maybe the complexity of the job. If you have never had a job before, let's say you're in your first or second year at CSUN, you don't have a lot of coursework under your belt in a particular field that you're interested in, you might want to look for the classification 1 or class 1 jobs. Those are entry level. They don't require any particular experience. Most of those are at the $15 an hour minimum wage, but there are a good amount of those. Under normal circumstances, when we're fully operational, there are a good amount of those jobs. Class 2 is kind of in the middle. If you have taken some courses, maybe you've had a job, not necessarily in a similar field, but you have some work experience, you could look at class 2. And class 3 is more if you've had some significant work experience and education. There are probably fewer of those available, but at some point, you know, everybody has to start being entry level at some point, and you will work your way up to the other ones. Next slide, please. Okay, so always include a resume. I do have a recommendation, and if you were to look up resume information at the Career Center website or attend some of their workshops, they may talk about this, but I have some personal experience with this, and I would recommend that when you're doing your resume, you don't use any fancy fonts, colors, graphics, or pictures. Employees that use an applicant tracking system like we do may not be able to read your resume if you do that. I have seen resumes from candidates that, for example, used a color for the first letter of their first name, last name, and the beginning of every sentence. Well, those didn't show up when I went to go read them. So it was kind of like a puzzle figuring out what their resume was supposed to say with the first letter of every sentence missing. Granted, it wasn't hard, but it still didn't look the same. And sometimes some of the graphics are really crazy when you go to look at them through an applicant tracking system. As Lucy said, including a cover letter can really make your application stand out. We do have some departments that right on their job descriptions will state that they give applicants that include a resume and a cover letter priority over those that don't. So cover letter is your opportunity to say more than what you were able to say in the resume. Again, I would recommend visiting the Career Center website. Take advantage of the things that they have available to you and the workshops that they have. One of the things on this slide that I do want to bring up where it says first job, no experience. If you don't have a job where you would normally be putting your work experience on your resume, you can change it to relevant experience. Let's say you've had some volunteering or you've been part of groups and organizations, and some of the things that you've done in those groups, if you're thinking outside the box, you may be able to correlate those to some of the work experience qualifications that they're looking for on the job description. So that's your opportunity to bring those things out, even though those weren't paid jobs. That's still an opportunity to bring those things out. As I mentioned before, the applications all have a deadline, so you need to pay attention to that deadline. Each job that we post has a different deadline, most likely. Not all outside job boards like Glassdoor and Indeed or any of those other ones, they may not have deadlines posted. So you just need to pay attention to that when you're doing that. Okay, next slide. Okay, so at the USU, the process can seem to take a long time. If, let's say, the job is posted for a minimum of 1 week, the supervisors may not start reviewing the application until after that first week. If you go back to the very beginning where I mentioned we had 3,000 candidates last year, that's a lot of applications to go through. Obviously not all at one time, but we do have some positions that easily can have over 100 applicants. So the supervisors need to review those applications before they go on to choose people. Because of the environment that we're in right now, the supervisors, the few hirings that we have done in the last several weeks or month or so, the supervisors have decided to have more phone interviews, pre-screened phone interviews, to narrow down the fields of candidates that before they go on to the panel interview. All of our panel interviews now are done on Zoom or some other platform, might be Microsoft Teams. I would like to suggest if you're having a Zoom interview is to pay attention to your background. Make sure it's not distracting. Sometimes if you choose a virtual background that is distracting, they're not going to maybe pay much attention to you as they are to the background. So pay attention to that now. Also, as what Lucy said, you know, pay attention to what you're wearing and make sure you look professional and act professional at all times. Once the decision is made, then Human Resources will call you to make the offer. Make sure your voicemail is set up. I'd like to actually go back a little bit. You should make sure your voicemail is set up and the mailbox is not full the minute you apply for a job. that supervisor, if they can't get a hold of you to set up an interview, they're going to go on to the next person. There have been a few opportunities, fortunately not a whole lot, where we tried to offer someone a job and couldn't get a hold of them. They either didn't have their voicemail set up, or the mailbox was full, or they never returned the call. We will give you other opportunities, and we'll try to send you an email. But if you don't respond to that either, the supervisor is going to go on to the next person. So it would be a shame for you to go through that interview process, be chosen for the job, and then lose out on it because you didn't check your email or your voicemail. So that's a bigger piece than what it seems like, but it happens. Next slide. Okay, so lastly, as I said before, project yourself as professional as possible. You most likely will not be meeting the people in person right now, so you need to make sure that what you're doing represents you as a professional as best you can. That's, you know, applies at the USU, it applies everywhere you're going to try to get a job. So good luck with your job search. And if you have any questions, I'll be hanging out as well. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. We really appreciate your time and your expertise in this area. Let's go ahead. And so at this time, we are going to go ahead and have some Q&A. If there's any questions, I know Karen, you have been watching that, so I'm not sure if there's any questions. You can use the Q&A or the chat button. If we don't have any questions, I think we did great on time. I really want to thank both Joanne and Deanna for coming today and spending some time with us today. Like I said, this has been recorded, so it will be on the Career Center website as soon as we caption it. So thank you so much. Karen, was there any questions? I know there was some trouble getting in, so we are going to stay here. I know Joanne and Deanna, I believe, will be leaving us. So any final words you want to say, or any?